you folks that are coming in, don't hesitate to turn on your cameras and all. You can turn your microphones on too. This is an interactive workshop. Don't be bashful. Uh, we're all learning, so please don't hesitate to. And while we're doing it, I'll mention this in a moment as well. Please open up the chat window and let that running for those of you who don't necessarily want to interrupt and say something on it. You're more than welcome to throw things in the chat. And like I said, this is an interactive workshop, so introduce yourself, please. It's worthwhile. You never know when you're going to find somebody that produces that ends up being an opportunity for you. Let's put it that way. All right. Well, we've got one more minute. We do start on time around here. There's Walter. Hi, Walter.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good, good. Thanks. Thought I'd just introduce myself. I'm a founder of a company called Empowered Home, and we do modern day remote health monitoring using consumer wearables and in-home devices. And what's different than normal RPM is we unify the information, put it in context, filter it with AI, and then send out predictive clinical risk alerts to clinician teams to be able to engage with that patient over telemedicine prior to a health event. And then we use the AI to interpret and correlate how the vitals have been trending relative to the preset thresholds and what we know about the patient. So diseases, problems, medications, and then assist the clinician could be like with triage. So essentially helping them get to the root cause of the problem versus chasing symptoms.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
So,
Thank you for giving us that and introducing a little bit. And
yeah, it was referred to by one of our advisors, Khan, and Utafia Khan, and he will be connecting to EMR systems, of course, and the ingesting the discharge summary, which is oftentimes in HL7. And so we can already ingest information via FHIR, but we need to build a transformation module to anything that's in HL7 into FHIR so that we can consume it. And then
fantastic.
bidirectionally connect to the EMR because I'm sure they're going to want to take those insights and then move them back to the electronic health record. And so as it happens, I'm already engaged with somebody on the East Coast, Deborah Heart and Lung Center, and they use MEDITECH. And I saw MEDITECH in this, so very
See,
appropriate.
you never know where the connections come from. So that's
Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you for stepping up there, Walter, and
yeah.
doing that. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We do around here at Zen, we start on time, we
Yep.
end on time, so you can count on us doing that. Very rarely do we go over it all, and because we want to respect your time. So we will go ahead and get started here. Thank you everybody for coming. Interop Workshop is where you ended up here today, and it is a technical discussion around the exchange of healthcare data and with the goal of facilitating interoperability overall. And we like to say we have a little fun doing this. We like to say that this is the most fun you can possibly have and still be talking about healthcare data exchange. And I guarantee that's the case. If you got something that's better, that's more fun, let me know what it is because I'd like to attend. My name is Jim Benson. I am the CEO of Zen Healthcare IT. And with us as we do and have on all of these is our resident expert. We call him Mr. Wilson. We also call him the Ron from time to time. We also call him the Chump, but that's a whole nother thing there. Ron Wilson. Ron is the former VP of Interoperability and Solution Architecture for this little company right here. Ron's last day was this past Monday, and he's leaving behind a very well-trained and capable staff, and we're glad to have him. We're grateful for his service. Ron, say hi to everybody and tell them what you're going to be doing.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. Excuse me. I am in the middle of a home build that has got me going about 100 miles an hour in about 15 different directions. And I don't want to take too much time getting into the weeds on it, but it has been challenging. I have previously built 4 homes and had little to
Wow.
no problems, and this one has collected every single problem from all 4 of those and put them into one. So
Wow.
I'm preoccupied with that. I recently relocated my mom. Her husband passed away, so I'm a little busy with life right now. In some ways, I'm not necessarily falling off the face of the earth, but I just have to dedicate some time to this project for the next 6 months or so and zero in on that, and then kind of sit on the sidelines and see what's happening in interoperability and watch the 900-pound gorillas beat up the 500-pound gorillas and vice versa, right? If you watched my LinkedIn, I had a nice little meme doing some AI work the other day on the whole current, most recent situation with interoperability. But more to come on that. I've got some thoughts on that and other things. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this project wrapped up and kind of moving on to the fall of my life. I'm not a young man. I'm an old man, and these young guys are getting much better at the technical stuff than I am. So, but yeah, we'll see you guys around.
No
Yeah.
replacement for experience, Ron.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, and we're not letting him go far, so he'll be around. And I know where he's building, so we'll find him when we need him. And we're always grateful for the help. And like I said, as we were opening, we've got a long history of doing interop workshops. He's been on a lot of them. We'll cover that more in just a minute. I do want to give quick thanks and shout out to Jessica Shaw and Karen Fleetes, both of Zen. They're in the marketing department here. They work very hard at getting this all together for us, and we thank them for the hard work that's involved in that. Little housekeeping stuff with regard to this forum. As you can tell here, it's an open forum. We like it that way. You are more than welcome. We encourage you to turn on your camera, turn on your microphones. If you talk too much, I'll have to shut you down, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. It is supposed to be an interactive forum and ask questions. We also have the chat. Please bring the chat up and introduce yourself in the chat. You never know when you meet somebody in a forum like this that you end up having a lot in common, or they need you, or you need their services, or what have you. So please introduce yourself, and that's the whole purpose of doing these kind of things. So we do, as you can tell, we let everybody in. Our clients, our prospects, our vendors, even competitors are welcome. This is a discussion to hopefully rise that will didn't say that very well. The rising tide will lift all boats is where I was trying to go with that. So that's where we are. We've been doing this for a long time. This one is sponsored by Zen Healthcare IT, but we do have sponsorships available. So if somebody is interested in being out in front of this group of people here, and it'll end up being quite a few with all those things, by all means, let us know. We're happy to do that. Like I mentioned, we've been doing this for quite some time now. I got a year and a half, almost 2 years in doing it, but we do want to be very current in our topics of what is going on. If you have suggestions of, hey, get some smart people that can fill us in on this, throw them in the chat. We do monitor what's going on with that, and we'd love to have. We just want to make this relevant to what's going on today and what you should be aware of. So we try to do that. Hopefully that is worthwhile. Couple of shows ago, we started a segment called Interoptics in the News. It's just a clever word we came up of what's going on in the world today. I wanted to mention, I'm sure everybody has seen it, the Epic Ocean Reed Health Trinity UMass versus Health Gorilla issue. If you haven't paid any attention to that, wow, that's there's some those are some gorillas going after one another on that. The complaint alleges that the defendants falsely asserted the data was for treatment. Don't know that that's true or not, but don't do that. and then rerouted it to mass tort litigation. Not a good thing if proven to be true. They allege that Health Gorilla failed to uphold its contractual responsibilities to verify the legitimacy of the claimants, and on and on and on. We hope none of that is actually true, but these folks have gone back and forth. We'll have to let that play out. The reason why I wanted to mention it, certainly, if you haven't heard of that, you should be aware of it. Do look at it a little bit. It's not necessarily germane to the technical aspects of what we do here. So again, I just mentioned what's going on in the world, but at least my experience is be careful picking sides on anything like that. What you read there, as everybody I think already knows, it's not the full story. I don't know what else is out there, but it is not the full story. It never is. The biggest takeaways from that is, and we do try to do this with our clients all the time, be very cognizant of the rules. We are playing for keeps with the data that we exchange of what we're talking about here. It is very critical, and folks like that, I don't know about anybody else, but I don't want to play with them in that arena there. So go out of your way to make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's with regard to knowing the rules and following them. Remember, intent, vetting, credibility, it's the key to everything that you're doing in this space. It's really critical. So when we open the forum later, 20 comments on that, certainly don't hesitate to bring them up. All that housekeeping stuff said, sorry about taking that 5 or 7 minutes with you. We do have a special guest with us today. Jason Vogt is with us. And Jason, I'm going to ask you to close your ears for just a second because I'm going to say nice things about you, and I don't want you to have the big head going into everything else that we do here. Jason is the development manager for APIs and structured documents for that little organization called MEDITECH. His role focuses heavily on interoperability and API-driven healthcare data exchange. He's done a ton of stuff in FHIR and with a FHIR first kind of mentality. He actively participates in the development. He's in connectathons, all kinds of things. As a matter of fact, he just mentioned he's in one right now. He's on the working groups for FHIR. He's done a ton of stuff with FHIR, Smart on FHIR, etc. I'm going to ask him in a minute to give us a little bit more information on Traverse Exchange, which is MEDITECH's initiative there, and has participated a lot in Argonaut, which is a huge HL7-led collaboration, and the list goes on and on. FHIR at scale to deal with security and bulk high volume exchange. He's got quite a resume. So Jason, you can open your ears now, and hopefully that's good. Welcome to Interop Workshop.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think, as you said, I have a pretty long list of things that I've been taking care of. So hopefully, we can have a nice, fun, informative discussion and, ask away.
Fantastic. You've been doing this about 20 years, is that right? Can that be?
Yeah. I mean, I look younger than I look younger than I am, right? Yeah, 20 years here at MEDITECH almost. But I think about 15 years of that has been primarily in interoperability. I had some billing, scheduling things first before I got those out of the way to go hang out in interoperability and find my niche where my name is also a protocol, so it works well that way.
That's great. Well, we're really, really glad to have you here, and I think it's going to be a great discussion. So, Ron and I were talking a while back as we do to get these things prepared, and one of the things that he had mentioned was the concept of because we work a lot with the FHIR and all those things as well, and he was noodling the idea of leveraging some of the security aspects of FHIR to HL7. And Ron, I'm going to toss that to you, and just if you will give everybody a little bit of a background on what your brainstorm was with that and how you ended up talking with Jason preparing for this.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to simplify connectivity when we're talking about doing traditional HL7v2 data exchange. And I participated with Jason at the Commonwealth National Meeting on a Fast on FHIR panel. And in that kind of discussion and thought process, I kind of came away from it like, wow, if we could leverage Fast on Fire to potentially do HL7v2 data exchange, boy, that might simplify some things. And so, of course, I had this brilliant idea and had a roadmap for it and everything. Sent it over to Jason. He goes, "Hey, man, we do JWT for HL7v2, by the way." I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes life simple." But I think the key that I was trying to get to was, how do we get past all these barriers that we've been battling for decades to do simplified data exchange, right? And I think the Fast on Fire roadmap for what's coming next is really how we got to this point, right? And having having Jason today is trying to understand what's coming in the future, what the roadmap looks like relative to MEDITECH. One of the things I've been watching MEDITECH for a long time. I was with a behavioral health EMR vendor about 16 years ago now, and MEDITECH was in the ecosystem back then. It wasn't MEDITECH Expanse, but it was, their older flavor of their product. And one of the things I've been watching with MEDITECH is their commitment to FHIR in general, and I believe it was a complete rewrite of the underlying product. And maybe Jason, you can speak to that. I think it's been a pretty strong commitment from your guys' side and the direction and roadmap there.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, right? Yeah, it was a commitment. I think, as my director and I sat down years ago trying to figure all this out, especially around like 21st century cures ruling, where it started to mandate an API, right? Where it's like, okay, what does that really mean? We sat down, we joined Argonaut as a founding member, and like as we learned more about that, we said, okay, well, this document exchange stuff we've kind of struggled with, like the amount of data that goes in there, what's the summary, how much data should go in there, how much data shouldn't go in there, and all that. And when we started to look at FHIR and really sit down and understand the basic components of it, it really seemed to say like, this is the way, right? Like obviously there's other examples in other industries that APIs are the way. It always takes us longer to realize what other people have. But when we sat down, we really started to think, okay, with all of our platforms we have, this can be the one thing that's actually agnostic. It can be the one thing that is the true translator of MEDITECH data, right? It doesn't matter where it comes from on the MEDITECH side. We can translate it into a very specific format with very sound, in my words, sound structure. And that's what we did. So we have written, as you said, Ron, a new platform that it's not available to anybody but our customers. And we deliver that separate of the physician system, right? So the physician system does all the things that it's supposed to do, the ordering, the charts, yada, yada, yada. But we have an agnostic system that runs on all of our platforms. It takes it from the proprietary database and sends it up to us, and we put it into the FHIR standard. We also took that same ability and said, okay, well, let's just do that with CDA documents as well. So all of our structured documents come from that same platform now as well. So the structured document that you get from a legacy platform and the brand new one you get from Expanse, or even like an Expanse Now app implementation, all comes from the same system. If they look the same, they feel the same. They may not always have the same amount of data in them, because you get more data as you get into the newer platforms, but it has created that consistency. So one place to code, one place to deliver, and really helped us fulfill our vision that we can do this one way in an agnostic solution and really remove some of the burden that we had from coding in, at times 8 to 9 different platforms due to all of our legacy requirements and all the certification requirements that go with that legacy support.
Yeah. And Jason, the Expanse solution is really the gateway to national network data exchange, QHIN based data exchange, right today, right?
Yeah. So the Expanse solution there has really opened us up to like real-time data flow. So with all the legacy platforms and even Expanse to begin with initially, right, it was kind of like, okay, you take it from our proprietary, you put it in this secondary database format that's consistently put in there, and then we can utilize that in the platform that we effectively called IOPS, which just means interoperability services internally. But what's my team is really built on. From there, we got to Expanse and said, okay, that's great, but like if we're going to do a provider smart app launch that wants to do some kind of clinical decision support, we can't have that lag. That lag can't even be a second, right? That lag has
Right.
to be like, I filed it, I'm launching 0.25 seconds later, I need the data. So that's where we really said, okay, well, with Expanse, with the ability to move that into cloud and do some of those things, we're able to go now right into the database and natively grab that data real time. So as soon as it's filed, we can access it for the use cases that need it. Now, there's other use cases maybe where they don't need that real time of data. And we have some additional solutions that we're working on to kind of say, okay, when you need a big bulk data solution, maybe that database isn't the right one. Let's, explore some other options that are out there. But the Expanse was the big kick to say, okay, we're in the cloud, we have more computing capacity, we have some of these different things available to us because it's a little bit more standard. And that allowed us to get right into the database and really start to expand our read and search capabilities, but also now into our write capabilities, because as we have started to move in with other organizations, that write piece is really important so that they can add some of the bolt-ons that, an ambient experience, this AI thing, or this ordering platform that they have for this specific specialty, we can start to bring and add those on to the Expanse system easier because we can do a smart app launch over to them. They have all the data. We sent the context for this patient. It's for this encounter, etc. Okay, pour some more information, do their thing, and then say, okay, here's that result. Add this directly to the note. Awesome. Queue up this order. That's great. Hey, add this condition related to this specific assessment and plan. Okay, awesome. And we can continue to build on some of those other pieces to do those writes directly into the system, but also do them where they make sense, right? It's not just going to go sit on a list that says, oh yeah, review this and eventually accept it, right? It's going right into the documentation workflow, right into your ordering workflow. So the clinician's just doing the same things they do all day, every day, but they just got a little extra prompt that says, oh, do you want to accept this, instead of typing it all out because AI said, you said this, is that true? Yeah. Okay, let's place that order and move it from proposed to ordered.
As it relates to your R4 implementation today, your Greenfield is your development platform, right? That's where if somebody wants to get in and play and try to work to get connected, you'd sign up for that. Does that require a MEDITECH customer sponsorship? I'm curious on that. Or can anyone sign up?
Greenfield does not. So Greenfield, if you're an app vendor, you want to play with the APIs, there is like an end licensing agreement that you sign just to kind of say that you're going to be a good actor, etc. And then we can set you up with like the credentials to utilize that, depending on what kind of app you're looking to be, system to system, patient access, etc. And set up the correct protocols and, are you doing this grant type or that grant type, those types of things. And then with that, you get a little login and you can kind of play in greenfield.meditech.com. It has some documentation and those things, has a few try buttons, and has a fair amount of documentation. I will put a plug out there that we are actually looking at revamping that space, and then hopefully by HIMSS, if everybody gets their work done, to kind of make that a little less API specific, of like, this is how you use this API, to this is how you use this workflow, with the API documentation kind of as the base layer, right? Like, oh, if you combine these 3 or 4 APIs together, you get this workflow, and it'll kind of show you how to do that, kind of like a step-by-step of like, okay, make this API call, that API call, and utilize these different elements from each of those API calls to make the workflow happen.
I think there's many tech vendors today that are interested. Many of the tech vendors that have come to Zen they've said, well, we're just going to do a direct connection, right? And what we end up finding is there's gaps in the workflow steps, right? That don't meet all of the needs. One of the elements of the FHIR-based exchange that is in the marketplace is the concept of a subscription, which is really an R5 object. And I'm curious, are you guys going to run R4 backport and implement subscriptions? Are they available today? Are they on the roadmap? What's the plan for that?
So right now we have what we call like a basic subscriptions. And I call it basic because it's like it's sort of the backport, but it's not exactly all the backport. And
Okay.
it's just for some very specific use cases. Mainly around like, hey, you have a new order. Tell the like patient app that you have a new order, or we have a patient to provider implementation for messages, right? So you could send messages back and forth from a patient to provider. One of the subscriptions is that, hey, you have a new message, right? So like when the clinician sends a message, the only way you know that is if we tell you they put a new message in the database, right? So
Right.
that subscription is available for that. And then to build off of that, we worked in the Argonaut community to kind of help refine the HTI1, I think it was HTI1 subscriptions methodologies, more around like, do you have a new encounter, and more
Right.
like event-based things that were a little bit more feasible than all that they asked for. We tried to narrow it down to things that MEDITECH, Epic, Oracle, Athena could do a little bit more easily. So that hasn't been implemented, but we're trying to look at some of the kind of like around the bulk database piece as well. We're kind of looking at a few of these alternative things that we can utilize in the cloud solution to help do that, but alleviate that burden from like the main Expanse system. Because like we don't want the Expanse system to have to like keep track of all of these different subscriptions and when do you queue and when do you not queue. But if we can have a secondary infrastructure that can handle all that and alleviate that burden from the main databases, that's a big win for us. And that's those bulk data and subscriptions piece goes kind of hand in hand to
Yeah.
help solidify that as a base framework.
That would be that. I was just going to say that would be really powerful, I think, for a lot of these health tech vendors, because then if they can get an encounter notification, that kind of provides what they need relative to an ADT, right? From a V2 perspective, right? We have an encounter, we have a new procedure, we have a new order, right? Just those three things will help a health tech vendor then go get what they need from their FHIR integration, whether it's bulk or whether it's they go, pull, whatever the item is that they're zeroed in on. So I think, do you think that's a this year thing or is it a next year thing?
I think it's like a early adopter end of this year thing. Like our first big use case with all of that was actually our Expanse Navigator platform, which is kind of like a big database that has an AI solution on top of that. So you can kind of go in and it's usually utilizes a lot of like past historical data from, I don't know, like a legacy system that you were on for 20 years before you went to Expanse.
Right.
So then you go in there and say, hey, Expanse Navigator, navigate right to all of the things related to this diagnosis or whatever it is. So like the first step was to build the database to do that use case. And that is going to early adopter now to start seeing how that looks and works. And then that basis can kind of be the thing that we're going to build on for the next, like, okay, how do we handle events? How do we notify people of events? And then how do we get that data out in a bulk workflow and take that burden off of the Expanse database and put it on to this other cloud infrastructure database.
So let me ask you this, if I'm understanding correctly. So the Expanse system is FHIR driven. Does it support ADTs at all?
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so like we have all of our ADT stuff. We still have all our structured document pieces, right? We're still sending to direct, all of our network exchanges, right? If you're talking Traverse Exchange, which I think we'll get to eventually, Commonwealth, Care Quality, eHealth Exchange, anything that comes to us is actually a FHIR transaction. So it's document exchange via FHIR, right? Document reference, comes in, we send that list back. They make a binary request for the actual document, and we send that out. So like we helped Commonwealth establish that workflow initially as the first true FHIR implementer in Commonwealth, and then we've kind of moved that around as TEFCA came up, and we wanted to integrate with other networks and things like that. So like we're always there in FHIR, but for ADT, we still have ADT, we still have, VPNs here and there, but like what Ron and I were talking about is like we also do ADTs into the networks, and we just use OAuth as the protocol, right? So the payload is still V2, but the security is just OAuth. So
Yeah.
like you just assign a client ID and secret, and instead of having to open up the VPN and mutual TLS and all that, right? It's just like, hey, here's my client ID and secret. Can I get a token? Yep. Okay. Utilize that token to send all those messages across until it expires, get another one, and watch, rinse, repeat, right?
Right.
So like that was some of the capabilities that we took from the FHIR IGs and said, okay, well, we don't need to redo ADTs and FHIR necessarily right away, but we can add these different protocols to it to say, okay, maybe we can send these HL7v2 messages a little bit easier because we can use some of the more, modern protocols that are a little bit more lightweight to get that connection done.
Has there been any drawback to making that decision?
No, it's actually simplified most of our integration, and pretty much every Traverse Exchange implementer, which is pretty much every Expanse customer and some of our client server customers, like is utilizing that to feed their ADT data into the network and to make their queries into the network as well to say like, go get these documents.
Got it. So for everybody that's on this call, if they want to interface with MEDITECH, they should be following these basic guidelines or plan on following these guidelines.
Yeah, it's an option, right? Like it's just another tool to the tool belt, right? Like could we do the other protocols? Yeah, like that you've established that we've done for V2 for a long time. But when we're looking at, okay, we got to send all these ADTs into a network, what do we do? And it's like, okay, well, you guys have this protocol. Can we just utilize it for V2 as well? And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. So we have the capability because we're using it for FHIR transactions. And we said, oh, let's try it. And it worked really quickly and efficiently. And, like all this is server to server transactions anyway. So protecting the secret was pretty easy, and off you went. And it's just one less certificate to potentially have to manage.
Yeah, the MTLS becomes, really painful, right? And it's going to get worse in the next year or so. I think the other item that I think would be good to understand is, from a concept of traditional document exchange today, MEDITECH is supporting FHIR-based exchange fairly exclusively, right? You're not doing any XDS, XCA at the core. It may get done manually or from a custom integration, but you're not doing it at the core.
Yeah, we're not doing it as core, right? Like we have a few like implementations with HIEs and things like that utilize some of those protocols, the ITI and IHE protocols, but like we've tried to move, I'll just say we tried to move as far away from it as we could, honestly. Like we really wanted to utilize these protocols via FHIR. It's the demand signals were kind of where that's where it was going, and we just tried to be one of the earlier ones for that. And yeah, like and a lot of times when we're pushing in these networks, we're like, well, why do we need to make an XCPD transaction? Why can't we just make a dollar match transaction and you'll give me the FHIR servers and the endpoints and the patient that's related to those?
Right.
So it's just to help continue to push our agenda a little bit, which is that FHIR first agenda.
Yeah.
Relative to system communications based upon the FHIR data exchange, is the XDSB data workflow model supported? Meaning, can an organization push documents into MEDITECH via FHIR today with a system-to-system integration versus a national network?
So for a fully structured document, no, right? Like we expect to do a poll if we're going to get those. One of our newer implementations that we've worked with my directives, who's on the call, which I think somebody put a shout out to me in there. Right. So that integration started as like, okay, I have an advanced directive. How can I get that into the MEDITECH system? So we said, oh, I think we can solve this. So we started with that as advanced directive only, right? Very narrow scope, because that's where you have to start. Every write is very narrow. And we said, okay, can we get this in for a certain set of link codes and do something and do it specifically for advanced directives? So we worked with my directives and we got it to work, right? We use a very specific link code, a very specific category for document reference, and we read that in. And because it's a specific link code, we do a few other things with the information to make sure that the clinician sees it, because obviously an advanced directive is very important to their workflow. What we were very happy to find after that initial project was to add that we kind of already had to put something into what we call our scan documents, right? So like wherever all the scans go.
Right.
And those documents can kind of be pulled anywhere in the system as needed, based on like what document type we put them on. Internal document type, I should just like our document type. So what we learned is that through that same process, we can actually technically do any document as
Okay.
long as we define a specific link code on our side to be able to handle that. So we're now looking at the ability to kind of do some other document types, that, other, advanced directives plus other things like some educational type material and those types of things. And those can be written in, utilizing the same document reference, resource with a category, specific category, and a specific link code. We don't know the link code, we just reject it and say, well, we don't know what we're trying to do.
Sure.
But
Sure.
that it actually became pretty agnostic to write any document that you would put into your scanning application. We can bring that in, we can define a link code for it associated to one of our internal medical record documents, and then that can be utilized kind of throughout the system,
Right.
as like a generic base layer, right? Like it doesn't do real fancy things and put it in a certain spot and notify anything, but you can put it in the system, and where you would view those types of documents in the system, they would automatically show up in the workflow.
Yeah. One of the use cases that's pretty common is a referral and a referral, response, right? So some practitioner inside of the MEDITECH environment would refer out to a third party, and they would do work with the patient, whatever that is, and they would need to get some kind of a, care plan summary, something back, right? That would correlate to that referral or, referral response explicitly. So that's where I'm going with that. It is very similarly isolated, like my directives is, right? Very specific document type for a very specific use case.
Quick shout out to our client as well. My directives, Scott, you're on the call here as well. If you don't mind, I'm going to call on you because I reserve the right to call on people. Okay, how was it like doing this integration with MEDITECH?
Well, we've got our principal software designer and engineer, Daniel and Justin, are both on the call as well, and they can probably answer the specific nitty-gritty questions better than I can. But Jason, we write to the MEDITECH folks all the time, names that you would know, Kathy and Jennifer and Kim, all these people that are in MEDITECH. And I go out to our we've worked with all the other big EHRs. I don't want to insult anybody on the call, so I apologize in advance if I do. But MEDITECH they've been outstanding partners on both the technology, the engineering, the product side, on the business side. We're actually going to, Jason, you may already know this, but we're going to showcase with MEDITECH in the Interoperability Showcase at HIMSS this year. And it really is my favorite integration. And I'm not just saying that because Jason's on. It is, we've known MEDITECH for a long time, and we're finding in our state work that we do, because we're running state registries now, and we're integrating with more and more. And there are MEDITECH customers all over, especially in the smaller markets. And they're integrated and they love it. They love it. It's great. So I would, Jim, I would say, and Ron, give the opportunity to let Daniel or chime in and see what the technology, but it's my favorite integration. It works really well as far as the flags and being able to show when documents show up or there's something else that needs to go on. It's A+. It's great.
Fantastic. Well, I love to stir the pot and get people talking back and forth. And if we can, scare something up, it's fun, but it's also fun to hear just when things work well. And that's quite
Yeah.
a testament right there. Yeah, absolutely. And the other guys, if you want to, by all means, grab the mic.
Yeah, this is Daniel. I'll just jump in. Yeah, it was nice to have a excited collaborator on the other end of those conversations that had capabilities they hadn't quite exposed, that fire right back capability, and we've wanted that, and resorted to HL7 with some of the other vendors that so yeah, to be able to kind of co-develop that and try it out, and hey, it works, and kind of be on the front edge of that was a lot of fun, and yeah, appreciate the collaboration.
Fantastic. That's really good. And we have forum like this, and we talk about it because chances are there is somebody else on the call that has stroked their chin and gone, "How would we do that?" Well, you just found out something about how you would go about doing it. And by all means, reach out to our good friends at My Directives, as well as MEDITECH, and ask them questions, because or you got a chat right here. You can ask them good questions on that. Ron, keep going. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. So what can we expect in the near future here from MEDITECH relative to their FHIR integration? What's coming? What can you tell us? Spill the tea.
Yeah.
Spill the tea. Yeah, so I think the big thing is we got a lot of ambient solution work coming out, so that not only can you use the ambient pieces, but you don't have to copy and paste them back in to the system. That includes, a standalone launch where, you kind of have to choose the patient and the document that you're going to write back to, but also some integrated launches through our Expanse Now platform, which is like a provider app. You can do that embedded into the app through an SDK into the ambient listener. So that's coming out here and also be demoed at HIMSS, pretty sure, alongside the My Directives. Though I skipped that meeting this morning, so but Connectathon duties. So it's like that embedded in, and then the different pieces that you can write in directly to a document, right? So we have 4 narrative sections that we started with, but now we're moving into queued orders, which is kind of bringing them in and saying, hey, here's the orders I'd like. Conditions, here's a condition, and here's an assessment plan specific to that condition, both for an existing condition that they pulled through the FHIR APIs or a new one. You can kind of batch all those together in a bundle, bundle all those together in FHIR speak, and send those in to say, here's 3 assessments and plans associated to these 3 conditions. 2 of them are existing conditions, 1 of them is new. So then we can add that condition as part of that workflow. And just to make everybody sleep well at night, all that goes through into the documentation reconciliation workflow. So the provider reconciles that before it becomes the source of truth type thing. So they always kind of have a final say in whether it gets filed directly into the system through the ambient pieces, through the AI solutions. Long term, maybe it goes right in. Time will tell on that, but that's that. And then the other part that we're working on is some integrations with some of the device companies and how to get continuous glucose monitoring into the system for those that have had those types of devices ordered. The other pieces are the networks. We're still really trying to work hard and push network FHIR capabilities around the fast security IG and that dynamic client registration. Unfortunately, some of the initial dates in TEFCA have been pushed back for the requirements, but they weren't pushed multiple years. They were kind of only pushed a year. So hopefully by the end of 2026, we start to see that happen in there. And the nice part about that discussion, which is not MEDITECH specific anymore, but that how do we do it in TEFCA discussion has now started to broaden to say, how do we do that for in DaVinci, for payer type exchange, for payer to payer, provider to payer, electronic prior auth pieces as well, because I was on a call this morning, actually, as part of the Connectathon, where we were talking about this, where DaVinci kind of has a HREX implementation guide that they all point to for for security. And it had 5 different options on how to do security. And
Oh,
we all know that if there's 5 different ways, that means there's 5 different implementations, and everybody picks something different and nobody really operates. So the question was like, how do we start to eliminate some of these? So we really started to have a great conversation around how smart backend services, which a lot of people use today for their fire security, and fast security and dynamic client registration they're actually really, really close in each other for specification. How they register, how the client is created is very different. One is very manual and one is very automated. But after that, they're very, very close. And how we can continue to sell that story to everybody, that when you move into the fast security methodology, once you get the registration done, everything else after that is pretty much all the same OAuth stuff that you've been doing. It's all OAuth, capabilities and standards. You add a little UDAP, dynamic registration on top of that. You sign a few JOTs, you trust the certificate, and off you go. And it's just those types of things that I think we're really starting to get the community to rally around the idea that, we can do this. We can do this in an automated fashion. We can do it in a trusted fashion. And along with that trust, comes some security fixes as well, right? Like right now, if you got a client ID and secret out there, expiring that secret can sometimes be cumbersome. You don't always know what the client is, those types of things. When it comes to registration with a certificate, revoking a certificate is a flip of the switch, right? Hey,
right.
this is a bad actor, revoke that certificate, and they're off, right? They're off at my server,
Right.
they're off at your server, they're off at the network level. And it's those types of things. So it's just trying to start to get the understanding out there for people that like some of these newer technologies and these newer encryption methods and these different pieces and JKUs and JWKS endpoints can really help us facilitate this type of exchange in a much more automated manner, which reduces that human element to the setup, which we've all been striving for many years to try to do, is remove that
Right.
so we can scale.
And the fast on fire IG solves the time to live of the certificates too, right? Meaning if the age of the certificates drops from a year to 6 months to 90 days, it could drop to 30 days and it wouldn't matter in the scheme of things, right?
Yeah, it just really comes down to like a certificate management level, right? And like depending on how many certificates you want to manage and how you manage those certificates. That's kind of been one of the questions in that IG of like, okay, what does this really mean, right? Like if there's a 10,000 endpoints, is that really 10,000 certificates that need to be managed each individually? And the initial answer was, I think so. The newer answer is like, well, actually, I think we got a few ways we can work around this with, JKUs and some other different possibilities, as well as just like creating your own mechanism. Because like, even for MEDITECH, we're like, okay, if we had to do this for every customer, that'd be a pain. But if we can do it globally and utilize the same manner to say, okay, well, we gave you a certificate and you trusted us, and now we just use that so that when we need to update your certificate, we just say, hey, here's your new certificate, go for it. And we do it from a central hub. Well, now that certificate management might be a little bit easier. And we utilize the dynamic registration solution and assertion to do the same idea. So there's a few things that I think we, MEDITECH, have been exploring on how to handle some of this overhead better on our own, that we can also utilize. I'm trying to utilize and put into the next version. This version 2 of the Fast Security IG was just published, and we're kind of looking at version 3. And this idea of how to better manage certificates is one of the main topics to try to solve in the next version of the IG.
Well,
Cool.
there a quick question on that, Jason, and understand I don't do certificates on a day-to-day basis, so this may be a very stupid question. I'll apologize in advance. But when you're the more folks that you have connected through a particular certificate, then when you have to change that certificate, you're impacting a much larger group of people. At least that's my understanding. So If you're doing certificates on a one-to-one basis, you got a lot of certificates to manage, and that's awful. And like we all know, certificates are getting shorter and shorter termed all the time, and that's not going to change. So it's a big problem. But the more people you put on a certificate, you impact more people whenever you have to deal with that certificate. How do you make that balance, or am I off base on that?
No, and I think that's what I was trying to say is like we do need to make that balance. And I think that's where like originally, when we're testing the Connectathon, it's not like we're testing with 12,000 endpoints, right? So like you don't think about that. But as we start to scale, we can really start to say, okay, well, this might be a little bit burden to do. So maybe do we need to centralize registration? Okay, well, if you centralize registration, maybe that's less servers that you need to do. And you can always just go back to say, hey, central server, is this certificate still good? Type thing. Maybe that can help. I think obviously, for the way the infrastructure is built with, certificate authorities and things like that, they do have some of those tools to help, auto renew certificates and things like that to help alleviate some of that burden. And
Right.
there's a few other protocols out there that I am also not the expert on, but that we're going to start looking at in the fast security IG with those experts to say, okay, how can we manage these certificates a little bit better? Does every certificate need to be hosted individually, or could we have, okay, everybody has their certificates, but they have their private keys, but the public keys are a little bit more accessible and they just get updated as needed type thing. There's a few different solutions. Again, I'm not the expert in probably even using some poor terminology here, but I think there's a little bit more that we can do around that certificate management to help alleviate that both at a network level, globally, but also as like an individual intermediary of that, right? You get your intermediary for your CA for your portion of that. How can you help manage those certificates in a way that maybe you can push the update a little bit easier? So like you just say, oh yeah, download these, send each one of them to the endpoints, and you have the ability to do that. So it's a very quick update, and off you go. So those are some of the things that I think we're exploring, at MEDITECH and with the FAST community on how to better handle some of those things.
How does the group of people that are going to watch this in the future and the folks that are on it right now who don't do this on a day-to-day basis, but they're either building an app, they're going to on some basis. How do they keep up with the changes that MEDITECH, you, and the FAST group are working on? Like everything else in this marketplace, things are nothing ever gets obsoleted, it seems like, but the velocity at which new technology is coming is almost breakneck speed, and it's going to get faster. How do you suggest that they keep up with what's the latest and what they should be basing their decisions on?
Yeah, I think I'll go to some advice I got the first time I tried to get involved in HL7. And the advice was, because I asked, it's like, okay, how do I get involved in HL7? There's just so much. And the person I asked, Brett Markard, said, pick something you're passionate about and start there. So pick a very small piece. So if, fast security, FHIR at scale is interesting, then pick that piece and maybe get involved in the fast work groups, whether that's security, identity, consent. There's a few different ones for that. So for those that don't know, that's in a FHIR accelerator under HL7. All those meetings are open. All HL7 meetings are open. You don't necessarily have to be a member to partake in some of those work groups, but pick wisely because there is a lot, right? And that's usually where I would say to get started is the one part that you're passionate on, right? Like for me, I started in US Core, right? That's still a passion of mine. It comes out every year. One of the key, I don't write the IG. I help contribute to the key contributor to the IG as part of the cross group project work group in HL7. But that's where I started. And then from there, I started going to Connectathons, HL7 working group meetings, was doing a lot in the Commonwealth space at the time. And all of a sudden, fast security came along. All the fast Tiger teams back in the day came along. And then all of a sudden I said, oh, that's exciting too. Another new shiny object to go play with, right? And you just kind of move from shiny object to shiny object. And one thing that I've done is I never let any of those shiny objects go either. I still kind of just say, oh, I'm going to add another one to my collection and partake in all of them, much to my schedule's chagrin. But it's those types of things that, whether it's smart work group, an HL7 work group, a fast accelerator, or sorry, a FHIR accelerator work group. That's where a lot of the FHIR specific things are happening now. And you just got to find the right portion of that you're passionate about and that you can get involved. And if those that get involved that are passionate about it, generally either ask the stupid question that leads everybody to the right answer, or brings in the like experience that says, actually, here's another potential option, and maybe that's the option that we all choose because that new idea was, out there in somebody's head, but it wasn't quite a part of the group yet. And as they come along, like those new ideas, those quote unquote stupid questions can sometimes be the right thing at the right time to get us past the hurdle.
Yeah, I lost my reluctance to ask stupid questions long ago, and it served me well because this stuff is complex. I would also augment what you said just ever so slightly and go, if you are interested and if it materially does, follow Jason's advice. It's really good advice. You have to. If this is an ancillary part of what you do, and you can't dive into it and really own that shiny object to the degree that you need to, whether Zen is your vendor or somebody else is your vendor, call on your vendor because it is complex and doing it poorly is not a cost-effective solution. You got to embrace it or really focus in on having somebody competent help you with it. It is tough. Ron, we got about 6 more minutes here. There are a couple of questions out here. I don't know if you've been doing it, but you got other thoughts or questions for Jason?
I think, Jason, you guys support, someone's got a question here about HL7 integrations. You support the gamut of typical HL7 stuff, ADT, SIUs, ORUs.
Yeah, we definitely have an SIU feed. Whether we have the pick list specific to surgical to be picked, I don't know that answer. I'm the FHIR guy. I know we have HL7v2. I don't remember the specifics of that, but I can definitely get, I can help curate an answer to that.
In the concept of MEDITECH, do you have patient patient groups as a concept, care teams in the FHIR, parlance?
Yeah, so we have the care team experience, right? That's a US core requirement there. So like we have visit level care teams and we have patient level care teams that can be queried and retrieved from the system. But you mentioned groups, and I do want to say we are looking at how to better do groups. We haven't FHIRized it yet, unfortunately, more so due to lack of resources. But MEDITECH has an application that we call registries and surveillance. And that one actually has a very powerful way of creating groups. And that group could be everybody that's had a visit in the last 30 days, but it also can be more specific to say, okay, everybody that's had a visit in the last 30 days that had, this lab result that was abnormal plus this condition, right? Or if you're looking for sepsis or you're looking for everybody that's been diagnosed with COVID, right? Type thing.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of these health tech vendors come in, right? They have some specialty that they're trying to curate, care for. And how do we get those patients registered to correlate to that health tech vendor to then better manage the list at large, right? Meaning staff are registering to the care team or to the group. You could pull that data, you could get a update, you could get potentially subscriptions, and so on, right? It starts to cascade down from there.
Yeah, and that really builds on some of the bulk data work that we've done in Argonaut around groups, specifically how to build a group, how to build groups, how to create groups, and how to advertise your groups. There's an implementation guide there that we help curate that is going to be the basis for our work when we start to pick up those groups a little bit more. We have dabbled with some very initial lists, more around like here's the provider's schedule for the day type of list. But these more diverse list that can be curated in the system, and kind of created on the fly, right? And that's what one of the things that I think could be really powerful in this IG is we created a concept called characteristics of a group. And
Hmm.
you could technically say, okay, here are the characteristics I support. I can tell you anybody that had a visit in this date range. I can, it can be condition related, it can be result related, and I could have standard groups that we've created standardly that you could utilize. But you could also take these characteristics and ask the server to create that group with that set of characteristics.
Right.
Obviously, that's not going to be curated in 2 seconds, but it can be started to curate, and then we can come back and say, hey, your group is done. They can set it to be maintained, and then that could be their basis for their bulk data pool
Yeah.
in future use cases, is that same list that goes over and over. We have not implemented that yet, but that is on our loose roadmap, and that IG is out there if anybody is interested in that piece. I think it actually got published as part of the most recent bulk data export IG.
Okay.
Fantastic. I do want to get questions because people were kind enough to put them out here. Sean asked a question about interfacing. He says, can MEDITECH provide an SIU or similar message that includes the pick list of surgical instrumentation to be picked up for the scheduled procedure? And if yes, is there a trigger for MEDITECH to send an incremental change message if the preferred card or pick list is modified?
Yeah, so I know we sent an SIU, but I don't know the specifics of the details inside of that. I don't think we would have that event yet to say like this incremental change happened on those, but like it seems, I mean, it's a pretty specific use case
Yeah.
out there.
Understood. Sorry, we have mutual customer. My headset just went out, apparently. We have mutual customers. Is there someone we could collaborate with to see if it's possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have a specific customer in mind, a lot of those things we like to have the customer bring to us. So just kind of have them, say, hey, work with your interoperability customer experience team and kind of bring that in there.
Yeah,
It's usually the
honestly,
preferred method there.
Yeah, honestly, we have done that a couple of years ago. So, perhaps I can shoot you a LinkedIn message or something, and we can see what's possible.
Yeah, we can definitely look at it. Like I said, I'll just say it honestly, I'm not the HL7v2 guy. So like we have a different team in our interoperability solution that I can at least get the answer for and see like what capabilities they're looking at in the future.
Sure.
No pressure. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that and appreciate the question, Sean. And Walter, I know that I can see from your question you're looking to get a little bit schedule some time. I'll ask Jessica if you would to pass Walter's information on to Jason, and we'll just have them do that offline. That'd be great. Sure. We're trying to facilitate everybody here, and again, that rising tide lifts all boats, and we're glad to do it. We're right at the top of the hour here. I'm also losing my voice here a little bit, but Jason, thank you very much for the hour, the information. Once again, it's a testament to how great our guests are because we were unable to stump you, and that's fantastic. We appreciate the knowledge that you shared with us. Yeah, it's very solid. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the information. And thanks to everybody that has joined us here. Please tell your friends about what we do here. We want them to be familiar with the future ones as well. Jessica, as we hang in here, if you will post the link for the sign up for February's, which will be upcoming. We've got a lot of things in the works with regard to that, and we'll get your invite on that one and give you the 411 on the details of that as we flesh that out finally here. Lastly, Ron, you'll be on ones in the future. I know you are, but I'm very grateful, and I know that all these people are grateful for the insights that you've shared with everybody on the previous ones for the past year and a half, almost 2 years. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's been fun. Feel free to reach out LinkedIn. If you got any questions, I'm still around.
Yeah.
I may not be sitting at a keyboard at the time. I may be running maybe running a sawmill or pounding nails. Who knows?
You never know. He's always got something. We're 2
Thanks,
minutes
guys.
late. Sorry about that. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one.
See you
Thanks,
in
all.
February.
Bye, everyone.